So when you look at these numbers from a wide view, statistical tie, but when you zoom in, when you read the tea leaves, there's some interesting tidbits here in the specific voting groups and the demographics. So can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. I mean, as the New York Times reports, 30% of voters have already voted to date, and 70% remain to vote. When we ask voters, are you planning to vote early and have you cast a ballot? On that specific question, Kamala Harris is winning by 20 points, 59% to 39% compared to Trump. So she has a very strong advantage via the Democratic machine with early voters. The big question is, can Trump narrow that advantage uh, with voters that will be voting over the next few days and on Tuesday? With voters that haven't cast their ballots yet, he's up 5 points, 50 to 45%. And obviously, with voters that are not planning to vote early, that's kind of a similar number as well. He's at 51%, whereas Harris at 45%. I will say, however, that there is an unseen advantage that Trump could have and he could tap into, which is with those voters that are not planning to vote, the couch potato voters, for lack of a better term. He's up by 7 points with them 47 to 40%. And if he's able to move these voters off the couch and into the voting booth, then that could make all the difference, especially given how tight everything is. So there's a playbook for either candidate to victory here. And again, the big question is, can Trump neutralize the early voting advantage that the Democratic machine and Kamala Harris have heading into Tuesday's election?
When you're looking at those couch potato voters, the voters who might or would lean Trump if they decide to get off the couch and actually vote, or if they stay home, that doesn't obviously give a vote for Trump. I mean, who are these people? Talk to us about the demo behind them.
Uh, Absolutely. I mean, look, these people are generally representative of the country, but they tend to be lower income voters. They tend to skew fairly heavily male, and they tend to skew white. And so they are, if you will, the stereotype of the MAGA voter, right? And Trump has historically been successful at pulling these voters out. This is why the polling historically has underplayed Trump's strengths. And so when you're looking at a statistical tie heading into the election and you're Trump's campaign, you're thinking, this is the best we've ever polled in any of the elections that they've been part of, 2016 and 2020. And there's a lot there to make them feel confident, right? With voters that have less than a 4 year formal education or college education, they're winning 51% to 45%. With voters that have a college degree or beyond, Harris has a 12-point advantage, 54% to 42%. So you see right there in this education breakdown the advantage that Trump has with these voters that more often than not don't vote. And these voters also tend to be in rural areas where Trump is up by 21%, 58% to 37% for Harris, and even in suburban areas where he has a very slight advantage, 49% to 47% for Harris. So again, this is one of those possible X factors in the election, but it's very difficult to gauge because these voters, they don't really take surveys. And when they do, you have to study them very carefully and usually with limited samples. What we're seeing, though, very clearly is that they lean Trump.